afternoon, everybody. I'm here with James Brockhurst.
Hi. Good to
Hello,
be back
James.
again.
It's been a little while since we've had a hangout, isn't it?
Yeah. I could say that. There's a lot happened though.
Has it? Well, you're going to explain some of it, maybe, but yeah, it's been a few good weeks.
Yeah, it's sunny again today.
Yeah, we've had bit of a late summer, haven't we?
Yeah. It's sort of a bit up and down at the moment, the weather.
It is. It was quite cold last night, though. I remember shutting the window thinking, "Oh, that's cold."
Yeah. It's there's a lot happening at the moment.
Well, there's always a lot happening in this place, isn't there?
Definitely.
Yeah, you know that bit when you were saying about Venus on my video,
Yeah.
it's not out yet, but I'll send you a copy of it. So
Okay.
what it is they're flying and in front of them looks like a moon, and
Hmm.
then they catch up with this other star, like, because obviously it's coming into view and it's just as bright as the one in front. And you're like, what is that? Two moons? But you said two Venuses, so maybe it was Venus. Two
Well,
Venuses.
that's what the person told me. They said that they wish they'd got a telescope so they could have a look to see which is which, because it's like that looks like Venus up there. It's not in the right place, and then saying, "Hang on a minute, that's Venus there. There's two of them." So
Also, looking at this footage when they're flying around, you can really see how low the clouds are. I mean, they're seriously low.
yeah.
And not just that, some of the stars are only just above the clouds. So when you're looking up, those things are not some of them are not very far away.
Hmm.
Even the
Yeah.
bottom of the Big Dipper only it clips the clouds. So
Yeah.
the bottom one, when I look up, I'm thinking, wow, it's only there. It looks quite big in my sky. It doesn't look so big in the sky. It looks bigger from here than in the sky. But when it starts going up, that bottom one is just above the clouds. And you're like, oh my God, it's that close.
Yeah.
And if it's that close to me, to them, how come I see it the same? I find that a bit crazy. But anyway, we're going to talk about some other things. What has been happening to you, James?
People have said to me over, I can't even remember the time span now, but normally I'll get comments like, "You should write a book," but my heart's not been in it. It's not a case of I'll decide, right, I'm going to write a book. It's got to be something to write about.
Well, I thought the whole of what's happening to us is quite a good book. Well, not a good book, but be a good read about what's happening now. Carry on.
Yeah, so I just put the question of what would it be like to write a book, and I find myself 91 pages in in a couple of days or 3 days from the idea to now.
Oh, you're writing a book, are you, James? Oh.
It seems that way.
So what's your chapter called then that you're in now? Or aren't you that far? Are you just making notes?
There are no chapters. It's coming out fully formed. This is the trouble with humanity. It's going into the unknown, and it doesn't know. It's like, well, where do we go from here? Well, I suppose basically what you could say is what is being written is the Bible for the new age.
Right.
But that's really not for me to say. That's for readers or listeners, because this is going to be 100% free. I'm going to be narrating it on video in sections, and I will somehow make a PDF format which people can download. There's no charge for this. I can't charge for it.
Oh, that's nice of you, James.
Well, no, it's not. It's not a case of being nice. It's a case of people need to see things.
How many pages do you think this will be, or haven't you got that far yet? You're just writing.
I don't know where this will end. It's one of the themes of this is very much about the beginning and the end, and Well, basically, I'm carrying on the work of Wagner. I mean, if it's taken out of context, you could read it, or if you just took odd quotes out of it, you could say he's a Nazi, he's part of the New World Order. Because I do say about a New World Order in there, and we do need one. You cannot not have an order.
Really? I could quite happily live without a government, thanks.
No, I didn't say a government. Nature has order, but it doesn't have a government.
You mean a code we live by, but it's not necessarily a spoken government thing? Oh, that'd be great.
No, no.
Send them all off to space. Send them all off to space on the fake rockets.
Well, this book is coming out. It's far, and it's another theme of it is balance, and so the revelations are balanced. It's not all in one chapter near the end, because that's a bit unfair. The revelations need to be spread out for people to see them.
Hmm. You took some photographs. Do you want me to show one of the photographs now? I've
Yeah,
got the rainbow one up. Do you want to talk about
yeah,
that one?
that's the important one.
Okay, 1 second. 1 second. I was going to put the rainbow one on. Ta-da! James sent me the rainbow. Go and explain that then, James.
Right. Well, it's a circle and it's an eye. It's a symbolic representation of the spiritual eye, basically, and it's actually the layout of an orchestra. So, can you see the circle?
Yeah, we've got the picture up. The blues, the pink or the purple, the yellow, the green and the red.
Yeah. Right. So, do you know where the top of that image is?
Well, tell us then. I'll point to it.
Right. Well, red represents hell. It's the
Is that
lower.
where we are, James?
Sorry? Say again.
Is that where we are?
Yes and no. So the red represents the percussion instruments. It's also the outer lens of the eye. And if you think about the percussion, that it's the drums, the triangle and things like that. They're the things that are struck. They're the things that strike you in the external world. After the red section, you now have a wind section, the brass. That's the heavy, dense level.
Was that the green colour?
Yeah, the man-made brass instruments. They're heavy. They can drown everything else out. That's coloured green because it's earth. It's also, although it's earth, they're wind instruments in brass. Now that's a linear section of 4. In front of that is a quad of 4, which is yellow. That's your woodwinds. That's the element of air. This is why they're these colors. So the red is the element of fire, the green is the element of earth, the yellow is the element of air. Woodwinds are your vocalizations. And the blue, which is the water, the emotions, that surrounds everything else like water does. That is the string sections. And so that's your whole nervous system, all the systems of the body, well, they're all your emotions. You've got the fiery emotions, which is the drums, the hard hitting things. So that just leaves the purple section. Now, it's said that you don't put anybody on a pedestal. That is the conductor. He is from an elevated position, but look where he is looking. He's looking at the embodiment. That is the mind of the spiritual eye that is looking at its instruments, its pliers. But look where that conductor is looking. The only time the conductor sees the potential audience is at the beginning and the end. The rest of the time he is looking inward at that orchestra. That is the human body. You are the embodiment of the orchestra, and hopefully the conductor has control over all the instruments, because there's dialogues that go on. So if the clarinet is speaking, you don't want it being drowned out by the violins. That each player has to be aware of the other players and pay attention to the vision of what that conductor is. Or the conductor is the medium, basically, that is conveying the spiritual message, which is then projected out to the receptors, which is the audience. Notice it's audio and it's audience, but it's not sound that is being communicated. It is vibration that the ear will then decode and put back into sounds. And if you'll notice with a piece of music, you can be uplifted, you can feel sad. People will put attachments to particular pieces of music. Oh, that when they hear a song, oh, that's when my auntie Ethel died, or that's when so and so got married. When I heard, or that was their honeymoon song, or whatever. You get the idea.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that is a circle, but from the perspective of the conductor, which is where we want to be in our mind, which is also the pineal gland, it's looking inward, and how that conductor conducts will depend on the reception to the outside audience, whether they agree with it or disagree with it. I mean, you can have two people standing side by side. They can feel something from music and they can have completely different feelings from it. See how this works?
Right. I'm sure it's resonating with loads of people listening.
Well, there's the key word, resonate. That is the key word. So going on, that's how this all started, and it has just unfolded. I mean, there was things I didn't see and were then shown to me. If I can just explain spiritual awakening, and I'm not saying I've got all the way through this by any means, family history, and now this have all been intuition led. It's all come from an inner voice.
Well, did you? I don't know if you saw, but I can send it to you. But I just saw this little video on TikTok, and it was very interesting. I'm going to stop this video just for 1 second. I'm going to play it to you, James, so you can hear this. 1 second. No, I haven't recorded it. I'm going to stick that in if you want me to. We're recording again now. Okay. So you sort of listen to it, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I actually, well, if we're going to listen to it, it'll have happened just about now.
The First 5 Years Fund has wonderful partners like Warren Buffett, Bill and Melinda Gates, the Pritzker family, you've probably never heard of them, the Packard family, Steve Ballmer, and more billionaires with their own foundation. They're obsessed with the idea of brainwashing children before they're 5 years old, and they're using cutting-edge neuroscience to suggest that they can change the way a child is going to grow up with robots and special programs. Basically video games that condition children how to behave and think. And it just wouldn't be the same without George Soros and his Open Society getting involved. Their education support program, which gives millions of dollars to impacting investing in education. That Pritzker fellow, he says we are in the nascent stages of a social impact bond boom. Could be as big as the New York Stock Exchange. I've heard people say, why are we letting investors make money off of our children? Well, that's silly. Oh yeah, and that billionaire J.B. Pritzker, he won the Illinois Democratic governor primary, and he's currently the governor of Illinois. Are you starting to see how huge this actually is? Billionaires are funding preschool programs to rewire your children's brains for a future that you don't want, using AI that you can't see, there's no transparency, funded by William Fences and Jeffrey Epstein. And just for the heck of it, we may as well get into James Heckman and the Heckman equation, which is funded by Pritzker and his Children's Initiative, along with Warren Buffett and George Soros. The Heckman equation creates impact bonds, which you invest in when a child is born. And your rate of return investment, the money you get back, is the highest when it's prenatal. And then the older they get, the less return you get on it. That's why they call themselves the economics of human potential. The return on investment for high-quality brainwashing programs starts from birth is 13% per annum. I know that if you're not into investing, that doesn't sound like much. That's giant. That's why people are investing billions of dollars into this. Now, only in this digital hell that I've been laying out this whole time does it make any sense how these people are going to get their money back. Because those bonds have to mature at some point, like 15, 20 years later when that child grows up, and they have to track everything that child does from birth to find out whether their investment was good or bad. So they're gambling on the futures of children before they're even 1 year old. Yeah, it's sociopathic. I mean, this is their official slides. Start at birth for greater gains. It's a profit program. Birth for 5 advocates, like that First 5 Years program created by the Obama administration, can use this research to strengthen their arguments for starting earlier than preschool to achieve greater returns. The more poverty there is, the more ADHD, the more autism, the bigger their return on their investment can be. They're turning human suffering and human problems into a commodity that they can buy and sell and trade. And you're going to have people short selling too. That's where you bet that something is going to fail instead of that it's going to succeed. And you make money because a community collapses and everybody becomes poorer in 15 years. What a sick, satanic, twisted scheme.
And yeah, what's your thoughts?
Okay, if I say to you, and you'll have to bear with my poor Italian pronunciation, right? Cimento dell'ammonia e dell'invenzione. The trial between harmony and invention. Have you ever heard of it?
Don't know.
You probably have, you just don't know it by that name. It is 8 pieces of music, right? What people will know it as, half of it, because they're only getting half the story, is The Four Seasons by Vivaldi. And we are very much still under the influence of what he was known as the Red Priest, which sort of reminds me of something one of my ancestors once said: "Who will rid me of this turbulent priest?"
Mm.
So yes, we are, this world, it's even shown in the music, as obviously there's the commercial aspect to this, because all music is, everything, every shop you go into, you'll notice now they play music. It is all owned by one. They
It's
decide
horrible
what
elevator music.
it's put out there for a reason, the same as why it's broadcast at 440 hertz as well. It's not just a brainwashing program on children. That's nothing new. That's just one aspect of it. It's the same as if you've got The Four Seasons by Vivaldi, you're only getting half the story. They're not giving you all the story there, but the whole story is there to be found. You can find all 8 concertos. But that's the principle this world is running by, and also the policy of erase the race, claim the place, and say we dig for ore.
Ah.
And if you listen carefully to the sound, and say we dig for ore, calling a ferocity.
Right.
I mean, I don't know why nobody has even questioned that multi-level chess game on Star Trek. That is showing people an answer. X-Men is showing people an answer. Humans are so bloody stupid at times.
When you're talking about this, it's a little bit different, but I put a video out on Sun and Moon yesterday about how weird the armour is. So in 1066, they had chainmail armour on, which protected everybody. And then we go to that cast iron stuff where they can't even turn their heads. Why would why would we change our armour into that, which is clunky and heavy, and probably it's a bit like, we can hear them coming, clonk, 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 clonk. And they have to turn their whole body around. They can't turn their heads around in the suits. So we went from something which was probably quite light wearing and electromagnetic like, into great big bits of. Someone said to me that, or a couple of people mentioned that maybe they made them look like soldiers, and they'd even put them on horses, but there was no one in them. But then that's a lot of effort, isn't it? Let's make 1,000 metal uniforms and we'll pretend our army's twice as big.
Put it this way, the colour blue, for example, right?
Right.
Can you tell me about the colour blue, like I don't know what blue is?
Oh.
Right.
Well,
How do you know?
it's the colour of what they're depicting the sky, and it's the colour what they're depicting the water.
Right. So I can see it for what it is.
It's 2 colours, isn't it? No. What is it?
Hold
Is it
No, hold
Go
on.
on. Go
You're
on,
getting lost.
James. You take
You're,
over. You
you're,
take
get,
over.
you're getting lost in all the details. Come out the forest, right? The only reason you know blue is because you've listened to gossip and hearsay from your parents who have told you that is blue.
Yeah.
Because it's had a label applied to it. It's the same as the thing about coins. People will say, "Oh, there's two sides to a coin." There's three sides to a coin. One is a very narrow one. If you are
The depth.
looking at the edge, as it is called, which is still a side, you only see half of it, and you can see the other two sides, which are faces. If you pick one of those faces or sides, you're looking outward. You're looking at outward. You're seeing one side or one face, and you're seeing an edge, and you're limiting yourself. So would you like me to explain the chess game in Star Trek?
Go on then.
Well, would you say that a standard chess game
I'm going to put the picture back to you for a minute because we've done that. That's very. I really like the way you explain that, James.
Thank you.
Back to this bit of you talking now. Carry on.
Yeah. So the chess game in Star Trek. Would you say the standard chess game that most people play with one opponent has the black pieces, one has the white pieces? Would you say that it would be more interesting if you had a third player in this?
Go on, James. Explain it to us.
Well, what if you've got a neutral in this that you've got the one team that will be seen or classed as evil, the other one will be seen as white or good, and then you've got this grey, this third player that sits between the two, that one is sort of trying to help the good one because the bad one is doing things in the they're helping humanity, but in a rather sadistic and twisted way. But they are actually helping humanity. This is when you see how this all works.
What? So they're goodies then?
Eh?
They're the goodies.
Who?
Helping humanity, you said.
Yeah, there's a third player involved in all this. It's not just
Is
us
that
versus
what kind
them.
of god is then? Is it a kind of god?
Sort of, yeah.
Right.
That I prove and unlock in all of this. Where does an idea come from?
Your eye.
No.
Idea.
There is something behind the idea. What if you take the ID away from idea, the identity, the personality? Because all artists are mediums. They have all been remote writing. Bohemian Rhapsody. I'm trying to think how the words start on that song now, which is about is this
reality?
Is this reality? No escape from reality. I mean,
No escape from reality.
Hotel California is another perfect one. We are all prisoners here of our own device.
It makes me feel like the Starfort people might have had gates that we could go through, and it's like they broke the gates, and so we can't go through. When we're here. Whereas maybe before we had through portals connections and things with other people, but now we can't. So we're stuck here.
Well, staying with Hotel California,
right?
I heard a mission bell, a Miss I-on bell, and I thought this could be heaven or this could be hell. But we haven't had that spirit way to bring me more wine. We have not had that spirit here since 1969. Is a wine a spirit?
Okay.
Another way to explain this, now let's just take Hotel California. Now go with the idea that it's another Queen song that you haven't heard. So I was like, oh, you like Bohemian Rhapsody? Oh, you'll like this song, right? So now I'm going to tell you about the song. Say bicycle race. Assuming that you've never heard the song before, so I'm describing it. I'm going to say it's got the sounds of bicycle bells and this, and it's that tempo, and then you've got the guitar comes in or a piano. Are you any of the wiser about what that song actually sounds like?
No.
How does it sound to you? How do you feel once you've heard that song? I can't import that into you. This is the secret known only to one. This is the mystery of Golgotha. If I could quote the Richard Wagner line that Richard Burton says in the film called Wagner, if you haven't seen it, it's worth seeing. Wagner had a massive ego that actually got him through this. He had to have a massive ego to do it. What he did, or really what his only mistake was to go try and take things back to the Greek, the fusion of all arts with an amphitheater, which is the same shape as that circle or half circle. So the words and the music, the paintings and things, nothing is greater than the other. They're all on an equal level, seen as art. It's Wagner you have to thank for if you go into a modern day cinema, the layout of it. If you go to an opera, the sunken orchestral pit, the fact that people do not applaud between movements of a symphony or a concerto, that is all down to Wagner. His influence is beyond the music. He was an artist, so he's a medium. Art is creativity. So the idea, if you take the personality away, that voice is something behind the idea, and that is source. That is in everything. Whatever day you pick as the start of the year, so you could say June the 16th is the start of the calendar. Is everybody born on June the 16th? No. So where do you come into the story? You're not at the beginning, you're not at the end, you're somewhere in the middle. You see the cross, X marks the spot. That's why it's an infinite loop. Things are just played over and over again. Afghanistan, United States, symbolized by an eagle. It's a replay of Stalingrad, Third Reich, symbolized by an eagle.
Yes, the Holy Roman Empire, James.
Yeah, it's the limit of that empire, and now it's going to start a long retreat. What everybody, or a lot of people, have missed, there was a certain event, which apparently is a big no-no to say on YouTube anymore, 20 years ago that changed the world. I think you know what I'm referring to. There was these tower, there was these tower blocks.
Yeah.
It's come out on social media how the sun shines through. Oh, look, there's no floors in it. It's just an empty shell. The planes were going west and did a U-turn. And there's all like two spikes going into these very tall columns, shall we say. That was a big hint. Now, if we move to another building, building 7, that didn't have that, but it, after the 2, that suddenly mysteriously collapsed. That's the 7 chakras. Only the edge of the pentagon was hit because it was one of your 5 senses. Your visual one.
James, on that day, 7 buildings went, even if they were indirectly or directly hit. 7, the whole complex went that day.
Well, it's the 7 reference to the 7 energy centers of the body.
Right. But a lot of people don't realise that. They go 1, 2, and 7, but actually all the buildings were destroyed one way or another that day.
Yeah. What you've got going on is it's two-way traffic. On the one hand, from the days of C.P. Bach and Mozart, a symphony was about 20 minutes long. Along comes Beethoven, it's now increased to an hour. The concerts, which were mostly for the wealthy, lasted 6 hours because the attention span in the early 19th century was far greater than it is today. So here's the weird thing: the symphonies have got longer, but the average concerts now are down to about 2.5, 3 hours, because human concentration and attention spans are devolving. The evolution is of the spirit, but this reality is getting everybody to look externally. I mean, the answer's there. It's intuition. It's inside you. All the answers are inside you. That everybody has amnesia. The attention span is dropping, or one of the reasons it's dropping is that 440 frequency. It is the electrical fields interfering with the electrical fields of your brain, which make a circuit. That is also represented by the snake eating its tail, because humans are naturally self-destructive, but when they're doing things from external instructions. So to break the snake eating the tail is why it's the Kundalini rising. It is the magnetic energy, but it won't work while the electrical circuits of the brain are thinking things, overthinking. You can't switch the brain off. It has to function for the body to work. But the mind, it's stilling the thoughts, and you've got in your mind, you have to stand back from your thoughts and observe what your conscious mind, where it's going. Otherwise, it's like a dog that's been let off the lead and it just runs riot. It's got to be kept. The ego is supposed to be the servant, not the master. It's like having the tuba player is now directing the orchestra. He is not from an elevated position. He can't see from his perspective all the other players. Only the conductor can do that. You have in music, you have a key signature. You have timing. If you look at an orchestral score, because there is a score to settle, each of those players, the parts of our body, need to rest. Like the orchestral players all need to take turns in having a rest. You've got all the emotions and things, all your thoughts going on in your brain. They're all parts of the orchestra. There's a dialogue going between woodwind and strings. You've got an underpinning of things by the brass. You've got the timpani for those striking moments. That's all of you. You are the orchestra. You are the universe, each and every one of you. That's what everything has been showing all along. The perceived control system are doing it in a very twisted way. If people knew the half of this, they'd be mortified.
Yeah, I felt like that when I realised we were in the Holy Roman Empire still. I was thinking, if anybody understood this, it'd just be mortified. They just won't, like, they wouldn't want it if they really understood what we were in.
Well, they're using a synthetic PCR test. It's not a PCR test. What they want is a natural organic. It's not P, it's pi. So it's all round vision. And it's not CR, it's a seer. There are some in this reality who could probably look at everybody and they wouldn't even need to ask the question, and they could tell you who is going to be positive and who is going to be negative, just from their energy. And the beauty of this whole system is humanity will take one of two paths of their own choice.
It is a bit strange that this place is set up for you to be what you want it to be. I mean, like I said it before, if you want to think that it's a globe and in the system it works for you, and if you don't, it still works for you, because everything can work here, sort of thing. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
In your reality, even if you're barking up the wrong tree, but
seek and ye shall find. If you're looking to see 33 sequences, you will find 33 sequences. I mean, I found one, a sort of confirmation one. What I've done with this book, it started with intuition. I'd never heard of this composer, Anton Bruckner. He's not sort of up there readily with Mozart and Beethoven and so on. But his symphonies, now there's 11 of them, Tell a story from the cradle to the grave and beyond in feeling. The bizarre part about this, and the irony is not lost on me, that he was a devout Roman Catholic. Now, if you can imagine like an American black gospel singer and that sort of very loud, hallelujah, thigh-slapping type of praise of God, that was Bruckner. That comes out in his music. He gets lost in it and he's unashamed of. But what he is a medium. He is conveying in something you cannot do in words. He is trying to quantify what cannot be quantified, which is source. He is a medium and it's working through him. He comes from the mindset of an organist, but he's expressing it as the medium of the symphony. But it goes beyond that. It also is his personal life in the music. You can hear where he gets lost in London because he came over to Crystal Palace representing Austria. Because he was such an outstanding organ improviser. He could have gone down that road as a performing artist and probably had a very successful career like a pop star of today, traveling, putting on concerts and things. But Bruckner was very humble. He was very Spartan in his life, and he had that calling to write these symphonies. It's far more consistent than the Beethoven symphony cycle. As soon as the ink is still it's still wet on the last note of a finale of say Symphony 3, he's writing Symphony 4 and then 5, 6. So now here's the amazing bit. That span of these symphonies is exactly 33 years. Make of that what you will. But it gets even better than that. The 11 symphonies are numbered from 00. So you could say that's 8 on its side, the symbol of infinity. Then it's symphony 0 and then 1 to 9. So there's your an 11. So you've got 0, 0, then you've got 0, then you've got 1, 1. With the different published versions, there was 23. So now it goes 0, 1, 1, 2, 3. Fibonacci sequence. But there's also subsequently with new published editions of some of his original manuscripts or different versions, different editions. There's actually 33 symphonies out of those 11. So there's no escaping any of this in this reality. It will be shown to you anyway, because you're intended to see it when the time is right, when you're on the right frequency, and this is what music is all about. Because music will communicate in feeling. And it's all vibration at the end of the day. You decode it back as into vibration. The ear hears it as sound, but the mind changes it. If I could ask you a question, Karen.
Right.
What colour is your brain?
Inside, I suppose it's kind of pinky.
Well, this is the thing. You can see it in your mind.
Or maybe it's brown.
Or if you're reading a book, what voice is reading?
Me.
But it's a voice, is it not?
Yeah.
Now, abracadabra, I speak, therefore I create. It is right down to thoughts. The voice in our head creates in this reality. And this is what this...
I know, that's my point about one of the biggest things you can do for mankind is to learn who you are as a person, because like Claudio's been doing, stay a child. Everything's about being a child, love and treat life like that. But it's who's running that mind needs to be stable and understand who they are.
To answer that question, you need to answer the question of who were you before your parents conceived you?
Well, I don't know that one.
Well, you don't need to attach a label to it. You just are.
A speck in the universe.
No, with this meditation, this Kundalini rising, there gets a point. Although you're aware of the body, you know and you feel that you are a spirit in it. and you realize that the body and the personality is not part of you, it's actually a very painful experience from the ego side, because it's like, oh, I'm going to die, I'm going to be erased. The ego does not like that. It's like a small child, but it's going out into this world like a child in the garden for the first time. Everything is oh, I wonder. And now if you adopt that with even going to work, the same route every day, the perspective changes, your energy changes, the energy you radiate out changes. We're basically magnetic beings. We're given electronic devices as an interference pattern. It's almost hypocritical that we're using electronic devices to communicate, but we are all a prisoner here of our own device.
Very good, James.
It's beautiful though, isn't it? It really is absolutely beautiful. When you see, this is how it all works.
Your etymology, James.
It's the cog in the cosmic wheel, to quote a conductor, Sergio Silibadaka. Again, I was drawn to him. He's quite he's quite idiosyncratic in his conducting. Some people say he's too slow, but to me, the vision of what he does with the overall picture of these Bruckner symphonies and how it conveys through him, he's another medium. This is the thing. You've got source permeating through everything, through the idea, the composition, through the artist that now conducts it, the artists that are the musicians, the audience. This is going through. It's resonating through the feedback energy from that audience. This particular conductor flatly refused to do studio recordings, and I'm thinking, why? Because the human energy. The way he describes conducting and music.
When was he around then, James, this person?
Sergio Silibadaka, he was 1912 to I think 1996. There's quite a few YouTube videos. He's mostly with the Munich Philharmonic Orchestra. So 1991, so he's only lived another 5 years after that. But his timing and vision, it communicates to me. And I'm just a link in the chain. I'm now a medium to channel this writing. And the potential of where that will go, I don't know. I thought a writer would have a plan before they write a book. Well, clearly not, because I've got the writer's cramp. It just flows. I'll write so much and then stop, and then bang, it's fully formed in the mind, and I just need to put it on the paper, because I'm creating a write, and there is magic spells in this book that do work. A definition I would say of a creator or a god is one that has control over time and space.
Hmm.
To be able to do meditation, to be able to listen to music, you have to create the space and the time to do it. So we're co-creators here. This is a playnet to learn. It's made more challenging by putting obstacles in the way. In music, in this, what they call the sonata form in a symphony, you'll have a first subject, you'll have a second subject, you'll have a working out between those two subjects, you'll have a resolution. And funny enough, with when somebody else completes a piece of music where the composer has died, they call it a realization. It's encoded in everything. Wherever you look, it permeates through everything. It's the it. I've learnt how to master it. Well, not that's the wrong word. I've learned how to work with it. Is what I should say. That comes with a huge weight of responsibility, because I know how powerful this is. It is the power to. I'm not joking here, and I'm not exaggerating. This unlocking what is the mystery of Golgotha. You have the power over life. You have the power over death. You have the power to heal. You have the power to harm. It is that.
So those pictures on Facebook, what are those, James? We're going to look at those now. What are the two pictures of the two men?
Right, the one on the left.
That's it. I've got it up now. The one on the left.
That's Anton Bruckner, who is referred to as God's composer. He was inspired by Richard Wagner, the one on the right, who had a very lavish lifestyle, used to dress in silk. Basically, the state of Bavaria funded him. He was very good at doing that. But he had a mission. I mean, these two men they're not your child prodigies like Mozart, who are playing the piano and writing symphonies at the age of 6. Wagner is from a theatrical background. Bruckner is from a church organist background. They're not your natural type of composer, but they're like every composer, and not just in music. They are artists. They are creating from imagination. They have the spirit running through them. It's not limited to any one form either. This is the magic of it. And you just become part of a long line of mediums with whatever you create and produce. It's beautiful. The whole thing is absolutely beautiful. But the shadow of the Red Priest, that's the problem with this reality. If people knew the real reason why you've got children, I don't want to offend anybody. I don't know which are now weaponized words, but cerebral palsy, mongoloid children, mentally impaired. There's a reason why they're like that. They are, the analogy I can give here is Enki fusing a hominid with Anunnaki and creating various hybrids, and some of the experiments.
What about the elongated-headed people?
Well, some of the experiments went wrong. Now, what if it's people who have taken a step too far and are actually mentally impaired, and to try and correct things, they are doing all sorts of testing on humans to try and find some way of reversing something. That is what is really going on. That is why you have a criminal justice system, because they are criminally insane. That is why they see things in a very different way. That's why if you looked at a brain scan of them, they would look like a very different species. They are very much in the reptilian brain. It's not shape-shifting on the external. You're not going to see people magically morphing into two-legged upright lizards. It's inside the mind. It's all inside the mind and everything. Karen.
Yeah.
Daffodil.
Yes.
What's just happened?
What's the what?
What's just happened?
Spring.
No. I said daffodil. What's just happened? Did you see one in your mind?
Oh yeah, saw a daffodil. Yeah.
I would say you probably pictured it with a open flower head, probably yellow, probably with a green stem.
Yeah, with a green stem and green leaves.
Is it moving? Is it swaying in the breeze?
No, it was stationary.
Well, what you've done there, just from a seed planted in a word, you have created something, but you haven't breathed life into it yet. And probably everybody else is listening, they've thought, he said daffodil. I wonder how many said, why did he say daffodil? But automatically their brain will have pictured a daffodil. See how it works?
Yeah.
You see how the media works? If people are taking a script, they are feeling something from the information they're getting. Their feeling is what creates into this reality. It is not a control system doing this to humanity. It is humanity doing it to humanity. Humanity are their own worst. Sorry?
We've created it all.
No, we haven't created it all. Well, yeah, yes and no is the answer to everything. If you're given a false script and you believe in that script, what you take and feel from that script then affects how you interact in the external world. I mean, you've only got to look back to March last year, how suddenly everything changed, like a reality jump, because that is what happened. But it also tells you if we've jumped into a very similar, almost identical reality with very slight differences, we can equally jump out of it again. That is why this book is here. I was going to say, to quote that Richard Burton line, and it's very much in the spirit of what Wagner would have said in German. They've made it, these philosophers, they've made it so we're investigating into life instead of just getting on with living. But through art, we will make man whole again. Creativity. Forget governments, forget the way things have been before. We're going into an age which is going to be so different. And this is where humanity is struggling most, because it's like, where do we go from here? They're looking for leaders. No, you're your own leader. The age of Aquarius is about individual sovereignty. Standing together as one, but you are individuals. There's no isms. It's not, I'm Scottish, I'm English, I'm this or that. All these stupid labels need to go. All of it is, it's all about letting go. Even mud floods. It's that timpani section. It struck you. It's very absorbing, but you get stuck in the mud. It's all by design to stop you doing the spiritual part. Because that is where the key is. Music, sound, vibration, key signatures. And it doesn't matter what piece of music, if it resonates with you, if it communicates with you, if you get a feeling, a good feeling from that music, run with it. If you get a song come into your head, listen to it. It's that thing behind the idea is communicating directly with you. You've got direct communication with this source. It's within you. It's just firewalled off in most people. It's underdeveloped. That's why humanity is being pushed down a devolution route.
And that's why they keep you busy all the time while funneling you with all this stuff, and you're not aware that now you can't work out what's real and what's fake. And they kind of want it that way, don't they? Because we have fake space.
Yeah, it keeps people thinking, therefore it's keeping electrical circuits going. It's not allowing them time to just...
But then you're going, oh, well, I'll vote for them to get in. And when you work it all out that your vote means nothing, they're selected, not elected, it changes things. But while they're all sort of taking it all on the way they want you to, you're not even noticing it. Or, oh, yeah, I'll just vote for Trump or Biden or whatever, or Boris.
The closer they can keep you in fight or flight... Like if you're being,
they say if you fear the people, you've got them.
Well, if you're being chased by a meat-eating animal, like a lion or something that's hungry, are you going to sit down and meditate, or is your focus going to be on getting yourself to a place of safety? This is why it's done this way. This is why you have this continuous bombardment.
But why do we have to have it in the first place? Do you know what? Even though a lot of people out there are narcissists, Jane, they closed us down overnight without one soldier or one police officer. So we're actually peaceful. And then all the stuff they put on the news, all the Crime Watch dailies, it's all rubbish. We're peaceful.
You know the answer to that question, Karen. You do. That question you've just asked, why? Well, give me 10 reasons why they should, and now give me 10 reasons why they shouldn't.
Oh, it's power, it's control, but they don't need to. You know, we could have had a really loving time here. We could have all been so connected and rah, rah, rah. It's the way it is. Families against families.
You've used one of those three words, could, would, and should. So it's like, well, why should?
Yeah.
What about from their perspective? Would you say they should? Or is it from your perspective?
Get on a rocket and bugger off.
Well, they imply that's what they want to do. Good luck with that one. Think they're going to be let out?
Well, something has to keep us busy, doesn't it? So, because I do think, though, James, I've been talking to quite a few young people lately, and they don't watch the television.
There's only one thing to be keeping busy with.
What I mean is that maybe this younger generation are all going to have minds of their own, and this is what this is being set up for, is to make sure that they don't. And it's going to capture some people, but I was just hoping the good would work out over the bad for a change, because the bad's been winning all the time.
It can work out. That's down to every individual. Say, for example, you're out driving and somebody cuts you up and you're like, I feel angry. Look at the thoughts you're putting out. It's right down to that level.
Yeah, in their world. It's their world that thought, "Urgh."
No. But who is doing the thinking from?
Yeah, but you can't be perfect though, can you, James? Because I might have done that a couple of times, but
It's
it's because so many people do it to me, and I'm just like, oh, what is the problem here? You know, people are such a rush.
that's where you got to sort of be the observer of your own thoughts and think, hang on a minute, I've got to think the highest possible thoughts, not think a negative thought of I hope they crash the car or something like that. I mean, I'm even like thinking, should I even be using that phrase? Because what am I putting out in a vibration? So
So basically, we're all witches and wizards then.
everybody has the power. It's not a case of one person or whatever is special. Do you think I mean, in business terms, it would not be, it's not a good idea to put all the eggs in one basket, one investment. So why would creation and source invest in one singular being? Everybody has this ability.
This is why
It's
Claudio's
deliberately,
doing a bit about love. Every word should be loving, love,
yeah.
love.
It's spot on. That is the all pervading, most powerful energy. It'll triumph over everything.
Yeah, I do realise it. If I turn around and I say, God, I hate you, James, imagine the friendship we'd have. Well, you'd probably wouldn't even talk to me. But if I keep going, I love you, James. I mean, you know, friendships and stuff. I love you. Then we have a different kind of relationship.
Well, I sort of disagree with that. If you say to me, I hate you, who's got the feeling inside them? I'm generating
I've
a
got a
feeling.
problem with you then, haven't I, James, if I hate you?
Well, yeah, but if I react to that in a negative way, it's from a feeling within inside myself. I'm not master of my own
No,
thoughts and
so every
emotions.
time you speak to me, I want to hear that you love me, James.
Okay, I love you, Karen.
I love you too, James.
How can I not? Because when you realize in the spiritual sense we're all connected, if I'm doing something harmful to you, I'm actually harming myself, because this reality is a mirror.
I know, but we sometimes, you know, you got, you know, you might make the mistake and go, oh, I said that, but oh, I'm rectifying it now. I take it away. And I don't want
Well,
that.
yeah.
You can change it. That's how it probably happens, because you can't be perfect all the time.
Well, no, it's like being a gardener. Some seeds you plant won't grow very well.
But I
It's not
suppose the more
fertile
you
ground.
wake up, the more calmer you become, the more you understand, the calmer
Hmm.
everything else becomes around you, doesn't it? If I'm going,
Yeah,
I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, well, that's going to be a hateful life. But the more love you put out, the more love
yeah.
you have around you and the people and everything, then it changes, doesn't it? It changes everything again.
It's an alkaline energy instead of an acidic one, because an acidic energy is corrosive. It's destructive.
But
There
you know
has to
what, though,
be a
James?
certain amount.
If you were 21, would you be thinking this way? It does take a bit of knowledge and wisdom to get here, doesn't it? It doesn't just
Um,
happen overnight.
well, for, whatever the spirit agreed to, think of it like a menu in a hospital where you've got tick boxes for what do you want for a starter. So it's like, I want to spiritually grow. So, right, what's the option?
Can you imagine it? I'll just go to the kitchen and whip that one up.
Well, no, it's what options do I want? Right, I want to be put with the most narcissistic asleep family. I want to live in suburbia. And it's a series of tick boxes. We all agree to this. It's no different in the metaphysical.
Well, we're
There are
supposed to
terms and
come here
conditions
to
we've
write
agreed to.
our parents, aren't we? So there's things with them we've come to write,
Well, yeah.
supposedly.
Probably the best analogy I think that I've heard was given by Rudolf Steiner. In originally a rite in what he says would have been from the Atlantean age, is when the shaman will come along and he will look at the shadow, because obviously different times of the year, the sun is higher in the sky or lower in the sky and casts. So it's not just the light that changes, it's the shadow. The shaman would see the spirit in the shadow and say, right, on this day, you need to plant grain or whatever. It's been morphed and so obscured into religious rites that it's lost all meaning. You needed that for that age. But what we need to do now, it's going into the unknown. It's like, am I going to like that record? Oh, I don't know. I'm not
Sometimes
familiar
you
with
have
it.
to go with the flow, but the calmer
Yeah.
you become, everything changes again, doesn't it? Not
Well,
everything,
yeah.
it just starts changing.
Just look at nature. The trees don't say, I'm resisting the wind. They'd snap. They're flexible. It's like that very fine line between the white and the black on the yin and yang. It weaves like a serpent. You've got to be wise as serpents and gentle
But
as a
it's so
dove.
sad, isn't it, that like the majority of mankind today is a made narcissist. They weren't narcissists; they've been made into them through the system we're in and the television and the politics. It's so
Well,
sad though that is, to manipulate people into becoming something just to serve your. I mean, that guy in that video, the TikTok, he's right, isn't he? They're not just doing it on children; they've done it on us.
well, they're firewalling off that spiritual connection. They're trying to turn 666, which is the fulfillment is to turn it into a 766, but they're trying to turn everything into a 66, mind and body, no spirit. They're trying
Zombies,
to
then,
disconnect.
basically. A bunch of zombies.
Well, they're just spiritually very underdeveloped. It's like they're like a fetus that
It's
isn't
like they
grown.
actually don't really know anything, do they? They think they know everything, but they don't know anything. They don't know what
And
they should know.
this system will channel people to clutter their minds with facts and figures, and the devil's in the detail. And it's attached to the personality. So, I mean, you're never going to be able to tell a university professor your entire career is built on a lie. Their ego will come up and defend it. They've got awards. They've got a
They talk a
position.
load of rubbish, though, James. They do.
They've also got an income and a family, most likely. But
They
if you
talk a
think
load of
about it,
rubbish, though. When you listen to them, they have nothing
oh,
to say.
well, yeah, I mean, if it once they're in that university environment, it becomes a bubble that is so cut off from nature. They're in a classroom, or they're in they're either writing something, or they're instructing students.
The physicists are the same. All those people, the scientists, they don't actually have anything to say. It's all theory.
Well, again, I mean, the clues
It's
in the
all
word.
theory. We're living on theory, which is not real.
Listen to the word physicist. It's telling you it's acidic. It's phys is cyst. Physicist. It's not science. That's a sound.
He doesn't exist.
It's a seance. It's like source. If you can't see the E energy, you're left with sour. There's a spirit that is ours that is now turned sour because it is disconnected from the C and E, the source. It's there in the words. I'm going to sound like David Icke soon. In my book.
Yeah, you know what, that bit about like physicist doesn't exist.
Mm. Well,
me.
exist, E for energy. Now do you see the cross? It's in, I mean, I had a break from writing yesterday. I went over to the local shop. And in my mind, I suddenly had Bruckner's Symphony No. 4 playing. And I thought about, well, it just sort of was revealed to me. 4 is bang in the middle between, there's 5 symphonies either side. It's the middle path. And even more beautiful than that, when I went into the local shop with a shopkeeper, he's telling me he's watched this 10-part series and it's the Illuminati are controlling everything. The general consciousness is rising very slowly, but it is rising. It's all good, actually. It's beautiful watching this.
That thing about about Spanish flu, the video said that, I mean, not that you can actually find it, when everybody's still bringing out videos of the 1910, 1920s, like there was a section that came out with looking a bit like it was last year, but most of them aren't like that. I just don't think it exists. But in it, the videos, they all said people started to not trust the government. I'm just hoping that that happens now, that part of it's right.
It is starting to happen. It is being shown in astrology. It has been shown in general tarot readings, cosmic tarot readings as well. It is reflecting what is happening. But you've got to be very careful with this, because it does come down to I speak, therefore I create, which is also thoughts. In some ways, when you're going back into the past, because the past is dead, you're actually performing a black rite ritual by trying to bring the dead into the now.
Yes, the only thing we have is now, isn't it? All the time, it's only now. That's all we have. Can't go back, and you can't really go forward. That's what
you have a natural spiritual source, and you also have an internet source, which is mimicking the source. Because if you look at the timing that these things are trickled out from that source, that artificial source, suddenly all these new maps that no one's ever seen before.
Well, what about the fact we were always at war? Everything had crusades and wars and treaties and wars, and I just don't think it's real.
It keeps people's minds occupied.
But
it keeps
we do have lots of castles and star forts and pyramids. Those things seem to be real because they're still here.
Don't worry about any of that.
And you've also seen that strange phenomenon at the car park at Silbury Hill, where we're at the car park and the pyramid looks about 4 times as big as it really is.
Yeah. It's funny that.
Yeah, you and Gary have seen that, and a couple of other people. And those people capture that on the water, and that's why they can say, why are those islands looking much closer? But not many, Enslaved by No Media did, but not many people capture it over land. It happens. We live in such a strange place. How many steps are we from that pyramid? Like at the car? 20 steps, 30 steps from the fence?
Yeah.
So we're not even quarter of a mile, and the thing had grown that massive.
Yeah, it's funny that, isn't it?
Yeah, and also the top of the pyramid didn't look right to me. I've watched it. I've been back loads of times. I've even been with Marie Wheatley, and every time I go there, I just go, but the top of the pyramid doesn't look right. In the big version, it looks different to what it really looks like.
So
I think that's bizarre.
What is that showing you?
I don't know, James. Tell me, James, why it looks different. Like, what? There's a bigger pyramid there, really?
No, you're looking externally, aren't you? You're on a face of a coin. You're looking outward. Look inward. Turn the eye inward.
It's one of my favourite places there. That and the Coombe Hill, which we've been to Coombe Hill, and even that was crazy because up there we had to realise that when we were looking at the mist, actually, because we're quite high up and Coombe Hill's the tallest point in southern England, actually what it was is because below Swindon, they're down there, then they come up the hill at Blunsdon, and then we're up there, and then you go up to Coombe. We were on top of a mountain, and we were looking at the clouds.
We didn't go anywhere.
No, but we were in the middle of clouds.
No, we didn't go anywhere. Everything, it's like watching a video on fast forward, but this is a 3-dimensional fast forward video.
It is. It does seem very quite. I've been doing another video, and I was thinking the one thing I thought was it was holographic.
Well, it is. What the eye's taking in is a video. Your 5 senses are decoding it as you're physically moving somewhere. Everybody else is doing independent movements, and it's all happening at the same time. And this reality is continuously. It's like water.
I know, James. What were we in? That was a cloud.
It's a current. We don't actually
would have said, "Oh, that's mist or whatever," but it wasn't. We were in a cloud because we're that high up. Because clouds aren't that high up. What
you've actually been shown in and what this is in many ways is like in the Matrix. You've got 12 pipes in your back, and you're in an egg, and all this appears real. It's just like each musician that make up that orchestra, they have an instrument that is within a certain tone range. Now you've got the heavy bass, but you've also got the light notes. It's sound vibration, but
Yeah.
source
What, so
is
James, when we were up there, we drew that cloud to us.
that's part of the Matrix background screen.
I thought that was a bit weird, really, because I was telling you how high it is, and it's a high point there. And then we realised we were in a cloud.
That's the echo and reverberation of the concert hall, expressed as a visual, because the five senses are very much like a radio. If you're tuned into, say, 88.2 on FM, there's other radio stations all going on simultaneously, but you're not. This is why when they talk about spirituality, about tuning into the spirit, the spirits and things, it's frequency. But what if you can expand your consciousness and you start getting in other frequencies simultaneously? Now, this is why people are saying, I don't like it here. Why is this happening and whatever? Because they've opened themselves up. You open a door, a Pandora's box. Well, of course you're going to get more things coming in. Of course you're going to feel more. Of course you're going to get all the horrors. It's no different from being a child in the garden for the first time. You might see a spider suddenly weaving a fly in a cocoon and it's eating it. But as a child, you don't see that as horrible. You're just observing it. You're not absorbing a fear from it and implanting a feeling in yourself. See, I can't take a feeling out of me as a cassette and say, right, this one's love. Here, I'll plug it into you. So I can describe it, but the words are inadequate. The music transcends the words. It's all in the feeling. Our real communication is in feeling. And only you as an individual know how something feels from the experience of it and how it feels to you, whether it resonates or doesn't resonate. But there's also attachments. There are emotions that can color or the color or the tone of the information you're getting. This is where you need the conductor to keep the orchestra in control. In this reality, you need order. You do need a new world order, not the one they're offering. You cannot have order. It's shown in the way they take down buildings. You do not want a wrecking ball approach to demolishing a building or a carpet bombing by the US Air Force, like in Dresden. Look at the destruction that caused. You want nice, controlled dismantling. It's another thing that's been shown to humanity. Look at the way they take down buildings today. They're showing you. You just have to turn all these things externally inward. And if you want to know the darkest secret satanic ritual aspect of it, look at the light side and look at that, and then see the mirror reflection of it. And it's to do with the bottom 5 vertebrae are fused. The Kundalini rising is about sending energy up the spine. It starts from the solar plexus in the stomach, so it goes down before it goes up, just like the sun will go into autumn, it falls, and then it rises again. But if you change the polarity and you just shoot it up the backside, you've changed the polarity, you've interfered, and you've done something unnatural. That's why they do it. It's power and control. It's anti-nature. Male is now female. Female is now male. Look what they're playing out. They've taken the spiritual fusion within oneself of the conscious and subconscious, that dialogue between the two, as a physical outplay of trying to create something that is a hybrid. That's their version of ascension. You are becoming part of a machine, something artificial. It's anti-nature. It's not antimatter. It's very material. But it's failing. That's why the glitches are happening. You might suddenly be, you could be walking floss, and you'll suddenly think, oh, like you've jumped a dimension. as you become more spiritually aware, you'll become far more aware. I mean, I stunned the birds in the tree opposite. It's like switching off a light. They suddenly stop singing because they're like, he can communicate with us. I can assure you, nature is very, very aware of what is going on. Foxes coming into towns is a strategic positioning in readiness. Because you won't have dustmen. You need the refuse cleared up. Otherwise, you're going to have a rat problem. I mean, we've already got a rat problem with the shadow of the red priest, as it were. Big clue as to where to look, where all roads lead. But it's far more twisted and complex than people realise. The Middle East is just a Middle Ease. It's not. It wasn't even there.
We've been going for an hour and 10 minutes, James. Do you think now's a good time to pause?
Yeah. What is the time, please? Because I can't
15:39.
see on the phone.
15.
Sorry.
15:39.
Yeah. Oh, that's fine. Yeah. That would be a good idea because I'm going to a moon ceremony tonight.
Oh, where are you off to then?
Just a local group. This is the thing. Don't bother going on protests. Have coffee mornings with like-minded people. It lifts the spirits when you're around other people, where you can talk openly about things and not focus on the fear shit. Because that creates an energy. Again, it's creation. You're creating a positive energy in the cosmic field, as it were. I mean, where is space? It's everything between anything solid. The only reason things appear solid is because they're on a different frequency, and you've only got that one radio station called feel. But you haven't got 5 senses. You've got far more than 5 senses. You can a piece of music can make you feel happy, or you feel happy from hearing a piece of music. It's expressed as, oh, I see what you're saying now. Oh, I hear you. It's not about the physical hearing or the physical sight. It's in the mind. Isn't it beautiful? I'm in touch with my ancestors. You're not actually touching them, are you? Not physically. Well, I hope not.
They think I'm mad, James. They think I'm mad.
Well, that's because they're in wrong thinking. They're overthinking. They're thinking from an egoic material aspect. While people are in that material mindset, they won't take that step into the unknown. They won't try listening to that new piece of music, that new song that is in nature. If you
change the records, James.
Yeah, the needle gets stuck in a groove, does it not?
Yeah.
And it keeps glitching and keeps skipping on a vinyl. And look at that. Look at the
maybe maybe it's happening because there, excuse me, there are a lot of people marching.
I know that, well, lambs to the slaughter, but if that's what they want to do.
They're not reporting it though, James.
Well, no. Why would they?
And then, Christian was saying something as well yesterday, like, what threat are we? Why is it we're being hounded, controlled? The whole thing happens to us, yet so many channels get given the free rein to do what they want because they're in the narrative. So we're being channeled all the time. And they don't really like channels like ours because we're hopefully making people stop and think.
The majority of what will be called clones, NPCs, the underdeveloped spirits, are very much looking for leaders. They've still got the herd mentality, the groupthink. So if the media was not controlled and was showing this, it would inspire others to go along. That's the last thing they want.
Near the media, anything to do with the media. Actors obviously mean a military operation. So when you're not really acting, you're just faces being used on a cartoon. It's all, so an act is obviously a military thing. That's why they get given all those accolades.
It's a carnival of carnivores.
Yes.
Basically, all that happens with these demonstrations is you're still acknowledging a power over you, saying, because you're saying, please give us our jobs back, please open up the shops. They're just laughing, they're just mocking. But you basically, what you've got there is a safari. The police are the lions. They're looking for that odd straggler wildebeest to pounce on and arrest. They're picking off the weak ones. They're doing exactly the same as the animal would do on the Serengeti. The lions or the hyenas will pick off the weak ones. Why do you think they overpower someone with about 20 policemen and everybody else stands around and just looks? I mean, Trafalgar Square, it's like shame on humanity. One of the speakers is arrested, and yet there's a human shield that could have all stood there and stood their ground. This control
No, but they
system
do that. What it is it's all natural and peaceful. Then the police wade in, then the cameras come out and film what's happening, and they look at those protesters, look what they've done, when actually it was the police that did it. So it depends which way you look at that one, doesn't it, James?
well, what you've got there is textbook narcissism.
Yes, I
We've heard,
hate that narcissism. It's evil narcissism.
well,
Evil, evil, evil.
well, that's showing you the nature of the control system. They're instigating something and then filming it, and the victims are now having the finger pointed at them as the aggressors.
Yeah.
It's textbook narcissism. But
I hate it. And most of society is narcissistic. And you know, if you are, then there isn't usually a way out. Because once you're one, that's it. That's the way you'll be.
there is a way out. There's several ways out, but there is a way out which humanity will individually choose for themselves. I've got to be very careful how I say this. Let me just say that there is a secret society that is so secret that it's never been mentioned on the internet. And just don't worry about anything. That's all I can say.
You know what though? I put this film out. In fact, YouTube didn't like it years ago. And what it was is these people, some like they're all in their flats, and this one girl said, "I'm going to shout out the window. I'm not very happy." And so she goes to the window and she starts shouting whatever she shouted. I can't remember exactly the words. And then everybody else starts opening their windows and doing it. So obviously, you know what I mean? We're all segregated, but we don't know.
Yeah.
Like, there's probably a lot more awake people than we think there is.
Well, yeah, I mean,
All I know is right now I could go for the separation. You believe that? You stay on that side of the line. And everybody who believes like me, come over this way and we'll live this way and you live that way. You get on with your miserable narcissistic life. We want to go that way. That's a bit of a shame. I mean, we'd have to change countries. But it would be great if we could do something like that and we get a choice. Do you want to live in that one or that one?
okay. If the majority of people are in this material world with no time to do anything or think, they've become very programmed that way. To try and give them 20, 40, 100 hours of conspiracy theories, which they're going to reject.
But if you were born in that world, the awake one, then life would be different because it would be part of you from birth, wouldn't it?
Before even the experience, before the conceivability of it, you've got to be open and take a leap of faith in the mind. It's too big a jump for a lot of people at the moment. But I mean, we witnessed it when we went to that castle, which is basically that gatehouse. Look how many people are out walking who are getting in touch with nature, who are on a very subconscious, unaware level, are saying, we're fed up with this shit. But they've not gone down the conspiracy route. They've gone down a more sort of intuition-led route. Because, I mean, the majority of them will smile and they said hello as we passed them and acknowledge us. And that is a big part. That even that is changing the frequency of this reality, and it is raising the level. But the thing is, it's like a computer game. If you raise the level, you make it a bit harder, because that's the challenge of this game. If it was a straightforward A to B, it'd be pretty boring. You need challenges with each increasing level. Otherwise, it's boring, and eternity is outside of time, and from this perspective, you'd be there a very long time. But it's not. It's instantaneous. See, as well as creating space and creating time, say, to meditate or to be lifted by a piece of music, you're also collapsing time and space in the mind, because that music can transport you anywhere, depending on how you feel. It's outside of time. Even the spirit of Bruckner, his Ninth Symphony finale, has been realized. It's the bits that he struggled with because he was describing after the grave, through that door. Aren't you curious to go through that door? When you sat in a high chair and your parents went out the room, something inside you said, I want to be able to open that door and go through and see what's the other side. It's natural to do that. It's curiosity. The system is trying to restrict that. Source is going through an experience as in its most restricted form. The system is trying to take it a step further and restrict it even further. Humanity can either devolve or evolve. There is a fulcrum point. Now, most people are being fooled by the crumbs. It's like, oh, we'll give you a furlough payment, or keep you happy, we'll keep you sweet, just enough to keep you going along with it. Keep things ticking over, because it's all, they know their time is up. That's why things are speeding up, and you will see more and more theatre shows being presented, which are intended to give negative feeling. It's very carefully worked out. It's basically, you could say it's a group of shaman who looked at their spiritual shadows and didn't share the information and kept it to themselves. And this has gone on in perpetuality in this matrix. The challenge is to be able to come out of the game. You don't have to play the game.
Yeah, I don't want to be a part of the game.
Oh, I do. I'm loving it.
I don't, James. I don't like the game.
To miss out on the greatest moment where humanity can actually go up into something better. Do you want to be staying in this shite?
That would be good.
I say, does anybody really want to stay in this reality? This is shite like this when you look at it externally.
Yeah.
But when you look inward, it's a game changer. You now become the conductor. You're on the podium.
We all need to hold hands and resonate together, and we could. Yeah. Those things would float off. Maybe we can make them go.
It's very much like a concert. Life is a series of rehearsals, which is not the music. It's a series of no's. It's, oh, that was too fast, that's too slow, that's too loud, whatever. But then you get it right, hopefully. The conductor has the vision and can keep control over that entire orchestra, which is your entire internal feelings, your entire internal structure.
Well, James, we've been going now for nearly an hour and a half now.
Yes.
You're really on one today. But you're writing this book, so we can always come back and have another one, because obviously you'd have written more pages by then.
Well, I'm gonna do it as audiobooks, and I'm also gonna sort out a way of doing it, so a PDF, so people can get it. There's zero charge for this because it's in line with meditation and spiritual awakening. It's the one thing you don't have to do anything. You just sit there, shut your eyes. Everything the system,
listen to James.
Everything the system is trying to get you into doing instead of just being. Same as Wagner said, instead of just getting on with living, we're analyzing, trying to pull it apart instead of appreciating the magic of it, because there is a magic creational force that can be, you can work with it, you can co-create with it. This is the beauty of it. This is what the whole experience.
Well, once you get to being like at peace with yourself, that really helps. Once you get there, then the rest is easier, isn't it? I'm not saying it's all easy, because, I was thinking, like Gary and Christian, they went off to the conference, Martinique's one, and, they were meeting people who weren't as advanced as them, and some people were more advanced. And I was thinking, maybe it's a bit hard to take, because it's a bit like when you wake up, there's all subjects are on the table, not just one. There's history, education, medication. There's what you think of the Bible, God. There's what we live on. There's so many different subjects to go to. Maybe not everybody can take it all on in one go, but once you're at peace
Well,
with
no,
yourself, you stop arguing. You start taking it in when you're at peace with yourself. You have
yeah.
to face yourself, know who you are. You have to if you want to move on.
Well, the meditation, once that pineal gland is activated, it is a biblical quote: seek the kingdom of God and all will be given to you. The answers will just come. You haven't got to look at anything. You want for nothing. You
Yeah, but
don't want
that's what
anything.
happens, though, isn't it, James? Start seeing numbers and connections and things like that happen. Once you start, it just means that you're connected. Once you start
Yeah,
seeing numbers and visions and all these things, they start connecting you up. People get a bit frightened of it, but all I say is, it means you're connected. It means you're there. It means you're in tune.
if you're noticing something, it's like a thumbs up on Messenger. Basically, it's a spiritual thinking. Keep going. You're on the right path. But the analogy I can give you is like Jesus tempted by the devil. When the ego mind can't come up with anything because everything external is illusory, and the pineal gland is active, the thalamus is active. It's got nothing to bargain with. You don't want for anything. You don't worry about where the next meal's coming from. You don't worry about your clothing. It comes. I've proved this to myself. I don't need
Yeah, I remember this
convincing.
story by this kid. It was a story for children, and it's a bit like, if you write things down that you want, write them down on a list and put them away, and then go back a few weeks later and see how many of those things happened. And then you've always got to go, everything I need is here, everything I need, I have everything I need. I have enough money, I have enough food, I have enough. I do say these things to myself sometimes, but it gets a bit tight sometimes, if you haven't got much money, or it's not been the
Well,
easiest time lately, has it? We've been through a trivial and trial, or this whole lockdown thing.
well, that's external. It's coming in through the eyes of the deceiver, which is the human eyes. It's not being seen with the spiritual eye. What you're doing
Well,
with
I
this,
don't know. I think I see it with a spiritual eye, but not everybody does.
what you do, it's like as it would appear now with what the five senses are telling me is I haven't got a meal in front of me, or I haven't got money, or whatever. But with the feeling, you're actually manipulating time, and yes, you have got a meal. You've already got it. You've already eaten it. You've now got the sensation of I feel full, and it changes things. I know it sounds ridiculous almost in this reality, but imagination, as long as as long as you can get into that state of absolute ecstasy, as it were. Funny how they use that word for a drug as well, a mind-altering drug. But well, this is the thing: you're up against something that's anti-creation. It cannot create; it can only imitate and mock and impersonate and hide behind images, not its own image. That, I think, is pretty obvious in the external world, because you've got various people pointing it's the Masons, it's the Illuminati, it's the Jews, it's the Zionists. They're all masks.
Mm.
It's those mystery sea people, basically, because you can't see them. They're the can't see them. Dr. Zeus.
Was that the blue people? But James, listen, I've got to go
Yeah,
and do something
yeah.
shortly. We've been going. I really don't want to cut you off because we're having quite a very deep
Yeah,
conversation here. But we can come back and do some more.
I was going to say, just as a final closing thought, think about all this nonsense about Dr. Zeus. He had characters in there called can't see 'ems.
Oh,
It's all,
James, I love the fact that you find all that etymology and everything and you connect it all together. Some of the things I'd never even think about, and then when you say them, I go, oh yeah.
I don't go looking for them. They just come in the mind. This is the weird thing about it. I'll get a song come in my head and it's like, hopefully it's frustrating when you can't think of the artist or the song name, because you normally end up with just a bit of the song going round and round in the head. But just like kings and queens, and
They could be your soul guides doing that, James.
no, just like again, the system is showing you this.
If you don't believe in soul
on.
guides and all that, when you're born, you're supposed to have one that stays with you all your life. But if you do believe in them, you could turn around and there's an army of them behind you. I don't know. It depends whether you believe in those things or not.
Just look to what the media is actually showing you, like Hollywood actors and actresses and things, when they have all these award ceremonies, kings and
That's what I'm saying.
queens.
They're soldiers or something. They're just that's their accolade for lying.
Hold on.
If they get the trophy, then they lied well.
Forget all that. Look at what they're showing you. They move in certain circles. Move within the circle of the mind. Act like a king, and you will attract. We're magnetic beings. You will attract
they're
other
all
worlds.
cartoons, James.
No, forget. Look at what they're showing.
Yeah, there's an end result of what they're showing, but I don't think anybody's real. I think they're just a bunch of cartoons, and they're just using their faces, deep faking them in.
That doesn't matter. It's what they're showing you. They move in certain circles. If you move within the circles of your mind, within that orchestra, you will attract other kings and queens. If you want to move in the circles of kings and queens, you've got to be a king or queen. You've got to act as a king and queen. I think, therefore I am. See?
Yeah.
Seriously, test it. That's the only way you'll find that out, is test it.
Well, I've really enjoyed this chat today, though, James. You're really on one today. And you're not finished either, are you, James? I can tell.
It expresses a Big Bang Theory. My mind has been blown by what I've been shown. It's like, oh, how could I've missed that? But it's all been a learning experience before I could see it.
We're always learning, James. Without learning, we die.
This is it. It's expansion.
Anybody who thinks they know it all doesn't. There's always more things to learn.
That's like looking for the beginning and the end. Why look for the beginning and the end when you can enjoy being in the middle of it all? The experience of it. Because I don't want to put limits on it. I like the idea of infinite potential. That's amazing. Maybe tomorrow I'll be 9-dimensional or something. I can't even picture what that would be like.
You're 3-dimensional in your eyesight here, James, but your mind might be. Your mind might be other places. But James, can we come back and do another one in a few weeks' time then, when your chapter's on? And we can maybe, like if you keep abreast, if anybody messages in the chat room, then we can talk about some of those things. People might have ideas and things, mightn't they?
Gladly. I can only give you a perspective from personal experience on anything.
Yes, you'd be very wise today, James.
I can only talk in conceptual terms about anything else. I mean, I can't say what it's like to be a woman giving birth, can I? Because I can never experience that.
One of the most painful things you'll ever go through in your life is giving birth.
See, I can only take.
I did 4 of those, James. 4 of those. But with Ellie, I was thinking, I can't do this again. It's just too painful. I can't do it again. But I was older then. I was in my 30s when I had Ellie.
Yeah. But she's lovely, so you should be proud of yourself.
Yeah, she's in Bristol at the moment. She's been to a festival. She's back tomorrow.
Oh. Well, you should be proud.
I'm pleased for her in a way. They rented a house. But what it was is when they were first looking at it, they were renting out the rooms, like £60 a room. Yeah. And then when they went back to obviously book the rooms, they saw the whole house was 60 quid. So they got the house for 60 quid and it got a jacuzzi in it. So it looks like they didn't change something on the booking and they got the whole thing for 60 quid when it was supposed to be 60 quid a room.
That's the way. See, that's wonderful. She's actually very spiritual, your daughter.
Well, I did say I went to a medium and they said that we're Welsh witches, and before anybody says anything horrible out there, a witch is a good thing, not a bad thing. Really? It's just a wise person. But all the women are Welsh witches, which means that it was my mum, her sisters, her mum, me, my daughter, and it's in my granddaughters.
It's in the blood. It's in the. It's in
It's in
the.
the blood.
The life is in oxygen. You've got oxygen in the blood.
The plasma, you mean?
Yeah, it permeates through everything. So yeah, you will come from a long line. You'll find that history repeats and families stay within
But when it
lines
does
as
it,
well.
it should give you being. You could be an empath and psychic and all the other things if you get the bloodline from me.
Yeah,
I think that's why I like my grandchildren so much, because don't forget, although they're slowly being indoctrinated by the television and their parents, they're quite free at the moment, and so they're
yeah.
so alive, and I love it.
They're under 7. They're under 7 years old, aren't they?
Yeah, like Luna was getting into playing the piano, and then I was telling Bonnie, and then she had to go on it. But she's not quite as good as Luna, but obviously been practicing with Luna. But Bonnie's the kind of girl like, I've got a princess dress on, but we're living in the tree house. But Luna's a bit more girly like. I
Well,
haven't met Bronte, my other one, yet, but she looks gorgeous.
that's
So
wonderful imagination. But I mean, look at that. You got series of 7s going on there. You got the age of 7. There's a cutoff, then 14. The coming of age is 21, which is a trinity of 7s.
but I have noticed when Bonnie watches the television, she just gets completely sucked in, and no matter what you're saying, she can't hear you because she's
Yeah.
watching television. Like her eyes, like no, I'm watching that cartoon, and you're looking at it and you think, what a load of rubbish.
Well, that's the subtle difference between a computer program without an ME on the end and a television program that has an ME on the end, because that is what it is programming. It's not
Yeah, it's that
programming.
thing if we're going to play that TikTok thing. It would have been on when we have this if we
Yeah,
have.
hopefully it'll be clearer than it came through on the phone.
Yes, James, don't worry about that. James, can we come back then? And
Yes,
we've
yeah,
been getting on for 2 hours now. We can't
yeah,
stop.
yeah.
Can we come back and do in a few weeks' time, 2 or 3 weeks' time?
Anytime.
Any time for me, because you love me, don't you, James?
Any time, because
And I
time
love you,
doesn't.
James. So yes, in a few weeks' time. I've really appreciated this talk. Thank you for explaining it. And you've just got to be in a higher vibe, haven't you, really?
This is it. Yeah. It from experience, do it. You got nothing to lose and everything to gain. It's wonderful.
Got one life, and yeah, you're not here for that long.
I ain't worried about that shit out there. Doesn't bother me.
Do you know, I had a book that said, if you're still alive, your mission on Earth isn't over.
This is it. I know.
Yeah. But James, we will catch up again very, very soon. Thank you so much. Mwah. And thank you,
Mwah.
chat room. Mwah. And
Yes, thank you.
10 till we do it again, James.
Yes. Say 10.
Okay.
You say 10.
Oh no, I'm taking that back then.
No, you put an attachment because it's just a label. It's not what people think it is.
Oh, nothing ever is it? But we can do that one next time, James.
Okay.
Big hugs, my darling.
Okay.